Greetings and welcome to Connecting with the Intent Show. I'm your host Muhammad Awais. On this episode, we have a very special guest. She is the leadership mentor and empowerment coach, Karlie Huey. Please join me to give a warm welcome to our guest, Karlie Huey. Karlie, welcome.
Hi, Muhammad. Thank you so much for having me.
Let me start with this. Where were you? What happened? Who were you surrounded with that inspired you to do what you do today?
Thank you. That's a big question. I am an empowerment and purpose coach and a leadership mentor. And I'm also a single mother to a brilliant 8-year-old neurodivergent child. I come to you today with over 15 years of experience in the technology sector, leading teams at major technology companies. And a little over about a year ago, I decided to leave corporate America and pursue my coaching business that's focused on helping both individuals and teams find their authentic voice, overcome adversity. So I focus a lot on leading through authenticity, empathy, and ultimately it's important to me because I've done this in my personal life and I guide my clients to break cycles of generational trauma in a way that allows them to reclaim their purpose, reclaim their power, and ultimately, leave a legacy that they want to for themselves and their loved ones. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. I also had to, I believe, right, that in our stories, our personal stories is where our strength lies, right? Not only our personal strength to, you know, push forward through adversity, but to find purpose in doing that and ultimately to give back to others, right? And one thing that I learned to be true for myself as a leader is that I couldn't share my story in an authentic way to coach others until I accepted my story in a way that healed me first, right? And by embracing my own journey was really the key to unlocking my ability to give back to others and help others in areas where I have, maybe struggled or flat out failed at times.
Thank you for sharing. What is your higher purpose in life?
Yeah. That's a big question. And I think it's something that that's a lifelong journey, right? But um, through my own personal journey of, um, dealing with what I'll call, various forms of trauma, right? Whether it was as a child, as a corporate leader, and ultimately, as a single divorced mom, right? I have found that if we don't recognize and heal certain patterns within ourselves, certain types of relationships will continue to play out in our lives, right? And so my higher purpose really has been to, through my own journey, help others identify what theirs is, right? I spent a lot of time in this, um, kind of why me mentality, right? Of, trying to understand or justify why certain things that I've experienced in my life were things that I've experienced. And I spent a lot of time and energy and, really gave my power away to trying to understand things that honestly don't make sense. Right. And so and maybe are some things that I will never understand. But I have gotten to a place in my own journey where I can look back on that with a degree of acceptance, right? And acceptance doesn't mean that I understand, I endorse, I agree, or I deserve. Acceptance is accepting a person, place, situation, institution, whatever it might be, as is, as a fact. That's it. Right. But it's been through that power of acceptance that I've been able to take back my personal agency, take my power back, and put my energy towards the things that I can control, right? And rather than what I had been doing in this cycle of trying to justify or understand things that are unjustifiable, right? And so using that energy and putting it towards what I can do. And I've gotten to a place now where I believe that I've had to look for a higher purpose in everything, right? And it's through that that I've come to understand that all of that has shaped who I am as a leader, as an entrepreneur, as a mom, as a friend, all of the relationships in my life. And I truly believe today that I'm exactly where I need to be, because without all of those things, I wouldn't be that person that I am today. And so through that, I have an immense sense of purpose, to help others move forward in a way that owns their story, right? And understanding that your story is your strength. And so it allows me to give back in a way, that gives purpose to the overall, story that I have.
That's a powerful purpose, you know. So, what have been top three greatest challenges that you have had to overcome?
Sure. Uh, I am a late diagnosed neurodivergent person, right? And so for a long time, whether it was as a grade school student or a corporate leader, I spent a lot of time trying to understand where I seemed to miss the playbook for life, right? I think about things differently, than a lot of people do. And for a long time, there was a lot of shame and misunderstanding around that, right? Like, why can't I just go from point A to point B the same way that these other 20 people are doing it, right? And I fought, it's like the fish swimming upstream, right? And as soon as I, um, accepted, it's been through parenting my son, honestly, that a lot of compassion has come back to me, and a lot of understanding of my own thought patterns and processes, really have started to make a lot of sense. And it's helped me to understand, um, why I think the way that I do, and to embrace this idea that there's not one way to do things, right? But I tried to put myself in these boxes of being like everybody else and doing things, the way that I was supposed to do it on paper, and it just never worked for me. So there's that. Uh, and then, another major one that I would say is, um, I'm a survivor of domestic violence, and I stayed stuck in that pattern for a really long time. And I learned through my own healing, journey, that those patterns repeat themselves in other relationships if, um, without that level of acceptance, right? And what can I do? And, there's no justification of it. Again, I don't understand, don't deserve, don't endorse or agree. Um, but the hard truth about it is that I'm the only one that can change my situation, right? And so accepting that and taking that as a fact is what's been allowed me, or what has allowed me to move forward in a purposeful way and give back to others, right? But that acceptance phase is a really hard place to be. And it brought me to my knees. It almost killed me, and I don't say that lightly. But accepting that, you know, personal responsibility of being the one that can and needs to make a change, was really the key for me, right? So back in March, I completed 320 hours of in-person intensive trauma therapy. Um, and that was huge for me, right? 320 hours of showing up in person, choosing to do the work. And I came to look at it as an opportunity, right? I recognize that not everyone has that opportunity to do that. But for me, it was life changing, and it was a key to really unlocking, a better life for me, and ultimately my son, and the people that I love.
What is your greatest failure story? What did you learn and how did you recover from it?
Yeah. Failure is a tough word because again, I've spent a lot of time in kind of this could have, should have, would have mentality. And I've learned that, for me, at least in my experience, it's useful to a degree to understand, kind of how we get from point A to point B. But I lived in it for a really long time, right? And it allowed me to stay stuck, uh, and accept things in my life that I don't want to have in my life, right? And so I don't like to look at it as failure, because I've had to really look back on my life in a way to find, like, what was the broader purpose or meaning behind all of this? Why did X, Y, and Z happen, right? Why did, ABC happen? And there's no answer other than um recognizing that without all of those things, again, I wouldn't be who I am today. And I can look back on it now, and this sounds crazy to me even saying it out loud to you today, but I can look back on it with a sense of gratitude, because, for example, my son is my world. He's the most amazing human that I've ever met. He's brilliant. And he, knocks me over in humility every single day, right? In the most beautiful way. And I can honestly say that I would live and endure every single second of my entire life over again, because without it, I would not have what I have today. And what I have today is everything, right? And so it's looking for the broader meaning and purpose, and all of it has been the key for me. It's hard work.
Yeah, it is. What is the most impactful book you have read, and what did you learn from it?
Wow. I'm a really big fan right now of, I'm finishing it up, but it has really opened my eyes to a lot of things. And it's a hard read, but it's really well done. It's the book "What Happened to You." It's on Oprah Winfrey's book list. Oprah Winfrey and Dr. Bruce Perry are the authors, and it was really a start of a healing process for me, because I think a lot of times, whether it's survivors of trauma or it's people that are, on the neurodivergent spectrum, whether it's ADHD, it's autism, or it's PTSD, all things that I have come to wear proudly as labels. There's this tendency in our world today to say, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Why aren't you just like everyone else? And shifting from that, what's wrong, to what happened, I think is a really important, at least for me. It's a mindset shift, and it has changed how I look at my story, how I look at, being a parent. And it's also changed how I interact with the various institutions in my life, right? Whether it's from a corporate perspective, or it's, my son's education team, all of these different things. Because the world's not set up in that way, right? We're inclined to look at people, places, and things and say, they're different. What's wrong with them? When really, shifting to the what happened, right? And understanding the why behind something. So that book has been really impactful in helping me really open my eyes and my thought process in a different way.
What are your goals for the next 12 months?
Yeah. Well, you are actually a part of my goal achievement process. So thank you so much. I have set a goal for myself to participate. I'm trying to do more speaking opportunities. And so I'm honing my, messaging and my story, and trying to put it into a way that's impactful, and, able to be replicated, and share it in a way that gives some takeaways. So I appreciate your patience with me today as I, kind of flounder through some of that. But one of my goals for 2025 has been to participate in um, a minimum of 3, conversations like this, podcast conversations. So I appreciate being here today more than you might know. Uh, and I have had a goal that I finally put a deadline on of delivering my first TED Talk. So I'm excited to do that. Um, and I'm formally launching the LLC for my coaching business. I'm in a process right now where I have clients, I'm accepting clients, but getting the back end, business component of it together is really important for me. And beyond that, I continue to work on, being present in the moment and mindfulness and gratitude. And, that doing that alongside being a single mom has been a really beautiful journey. And so I recognize that, I have a profound sense of gratitude that I really can, live a life and live in a world where I can give back to others, be of service to others. And also, do things that light me up, right? And that bring me joy, and use my strength in a way that gives back to others, whether that's professionally or it's personally in my life as a parent. And so just being able to be present with my son in the beautiful moments, but also just the daily ones, right? And really building something that he and I can be proud of. My goal is, I don't want him to look back someday and say, "Wow, my mom really went through a lot." Sure, like there needs to be, that I think level of recognition. But what I want him to say when he's an adult, is we had so much joy and so much love in our life, and we were present, right? And so maybe a broader philosophical life goal, but what's really important for me.
What advice what advice you will give to younger yourself?
I think I would go back to the idea that our stories are our strength, right? And that we can endure and achieve amazing things, right? And we are stronger than we know. Um, but it's that acceptance piece, right? Of once you accept that your story is your strength, that is where you will begin to take back your power, your personal agency, all of those types of things.
That's a great advice. How can we support you?
Well, as I said, you're supporting me today by allowing me to be a guest on your show, and I have an immense level of gratitude for that. And I think, just if there's anything out there, right? If my story impacts one person in a positive way, then again, that goes back to my gratitude of everything has been worth it, right? Um, so I think if it resonates, right, and a person in your life who um is on some level of neurodivergent spectrum, and they're struggling with understanding how to show up in the world as their authentic selves, right? I truly believe that my son's ADHD and being on the autism spectrum, that's a superpower. There are so many superpowers associated with that, but there's a reason that neurodivergent people have higher suicide rates and have higher risk of depression and all of these types of things, right? And so, like any superpower, run rampant, it can be an Achilles heel if you don't know how to embrace it in a positive way, right? And so, if there's someone out here today that's hearing those things, you have a superpower, you have a beautiful brain. It's focusing on that superpower and being amazing at those and being functional at the rest, right? And I would also say, if there's anyone out there, as a survivor of trauma or domestic, violence or whatnot, who is ready to heal, right, and ready to reclaim their personal power and move forward with strength, my hope to them is that they can hear that it is possible to move forward in a way that not only heals you, but also um, allows you to live a life of purposeful freedom. So if either of those two things resonate, I would love to have a follow-up conversation and support anyone in any way that I can.
What would you say about your guest appearance on this show?
It's been great. You've been wonderful, Muhammad. You've had a lot of patience with me, and I appreciate that. Um, and there were, like we were talking about kind of in the pre-meeting, I've had some nerves today, right? But I think nerves are a good thing. They mean a healthy level of nerves are a good thing. They mean that we care and that we're invested. But going through this process with you has helped reaffirm that I'm excited to be here, right? And that we can do hard things. We can step outside of our comfort zones. And you've allowed me to do that in a way that, um, in a way that's allowed me to step out of my comfort zone in a way that shows me, again, that we can do things that are outside of our comfort zone and get a lot back from it, right? So I'm excited to be here. I'm grateful to be here. And you've made it a wonderful experience.
Thank you so much for your kind words. I really appreciate you for this. What closing thoughts would you like to share with our listeners?
Yeah. Uh, I would say, healing and growth are not linear, right? If I look back on even just a year, right, a lot can happen in what feels like a long period of time. Some days you're coping with things, some days you're on the floor, some days you're taking steps forward. Other days everything feels impossible. And some days you're thriving, right? All of this is normal. Healing is not linear. Uh, but I have learned, if you're ready to let go of something, right, and own your story and own your stigma and all of these types of things, if you're ready to let go, just know that you won't have to do it only once, right? You're going to need to do it again and again. But every time that you do, you get closer to the peace that you deserve and a purpose that you can serve. So I would just say onward and upward with gratitude.
Thank you so much, Carly, for sharing your wisdom with us today. On the behalf of Connecting with the Intent community and our entire team, we really appreciate you. This is Muhammad West. Until the next episode, all good wishes.